Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host and researcher, Louisa. This is Monday, June 15th, 2020. This is GoldFish Report number 506. This is our weekly political theater with the most dangerous mind in America, my friend, the Fetz. How are you, Jim?
Oh, Louisa, I think you got nearly 1 million people wanting to go to Trump's rally in Tulsa. It's absolutely staggering. No matter what the deep state tries, the people are responding to him. They know he is the real deal and cares about them, and that the Democrats were willing to trash the economy and destroy American lives to gain political power or not.
Well, Jim, this is what's going on. And I just published a message on my community board for our viewers because we're being sabotaged. We're unable to go live today, unable to live stream. But the title of this report is Milking the Trojan Crisis Cow for a reason. Get ready, folks. Get ready because we're going to see a spike in coronavirus. I mean, that's what they're telling us we're going to see, right? All these protesters that are gathering all over the place that are not social distancing, and they're not adhering to the draconian measures that we're being subjected to, but apparently it's okay for them. Nobody's being arrested for violating what we would get arrested for violating, but there they are, crowding the streets, causing ruckus, hitting, laying down next to each other on the streets. Let me just screen share a picture of this for you because clearly you would think that this is a violation of the social distancing rules. You can see people here in the middle who are just almost, on top of each other, literally. And they're not social distancing. I don't see any bathrooms here. I don't see any hand washing. I don't see any hand sanitizers. I don't see anything that would indicate that people are avoiding, contracting or passing the coronavirus. But this article, as you could see here, says that the COVID in New York City, that picture was taken in New York City, COVID-19 contact tracers not asking about George Floyd protest participation, despite fears of new virus wave. So the contact tracers are not actually doing their job. They are. This is just such a scam, Jim. This is such a scam.
Well, every aspect of it is a scam, Louisa. For crying out loud, the contact tracers are just surveyors. This is a new surveillance society. They want to have an excuse, now a medical excuse, to survey everything we do, everywhere we go, every purchase we make. It's all a total scam. And we ought to be endorsing the protesters who are not conforming because those social distancing, mask, and all that other stay-at-home nonsense makes our immune systems weaker and makes us more vulnerable to future diseases and difficulties in life. So the whole thing is ridiculous. They're playing us for suckers and saps.
No person will be asked proactively if they attended a protest. I mean, isn't this the reason why we're being forced to conform to these draconian measures? That the reason why we can't, go and have our life return to normal? But they're not going to be. What the hell's going on, folks? We are all the sheep. We're all sitting here. They love the fact that we are going to do whatever they tell us to do. They love it. They can't, they can't get enough of it. They are insatiated, right? The ruling class, including the MSM, have exhausted all their pointless false flag operations to lure the masses back into their sleep. But it's not working. It isn't working because we know, and they know that we know that their jig is up, that we know that they're fake, and they know that we know that they're fake. And the police are resigning. You have all this crazy stuff going on over in Portland. And I have a clip from Governor Huckabee, which I'm going to share with you, who talks about this. And you're going to hear what he has to say. All right. Here we go.
How are we supposed to know?
Well, we're never going to know because the officials who are supposed to stay with a sense of order have allowed this to just degenerate into utter chaos. And so it's going to last as long as they're willing for it to last. Why don't they turn off the electricity, the water, the gas, and jam all of the communication signals coming in and out of there. When these people can't go on social media, when they can't call in for things by way of their iPhones, things come to a grind pretty quick when no supplies can come in and out. And what the police and the mayor and the governor ought to do, if they had any brains at all, they would make it so that people who want to get the heck out of there, the law-abiding citizens that are stuck in this incredible hellhole, would be allowed to get the heck out. But they're not allowed to, and these people have taken over. This is a hostage situation. And I don't understand why they somehow think that it's the summer of love. No, this is a summer of crime, outright insurrection and crime. And it's going to last as long as these weak wuss officials in Washington State allow it to happen.
I'm going to stop there because Governor Huckabee makes a very good point, and quite unfortunate is that this is going to continue. There's no end in sight for this right now. And, you know, you can't exactly have the president just pull up the Insurrection Act because they're calling themselves protesters. So we can't just force the military on our citizens who are protesting. So, you know, he's going to look like a dictator, and that's what they're going to try to claim. But let me say this is going to backfire, because what they're doing is how to guarantee a Trump victory in September, Jim.
The Trump victory was already going to occur, Louise. I'll just tell you, this is a form of self-immolation that outdoes a Buddhist monk protesting the Vietnamese War. The Democrats are burning up any prospect they might have for 2020. The officials there in the city are concerned. The chief of police has explained they can't respond to 911 calls concerning rapes and robberies in this area, and they're planning to retake. Trump has done the right thing by standing back and giving this group enough rope to make it look like a group of, this is like a fraternity block party. This is just ridiculous beyond words. And the fact that the liberal Democrats are all for it is just absolutely damaging them, making them look ridiculous. So I believe the president has been handling this just the right way.
Well, we just want people to know that, you know, I've also been getting other intel from other sources, and you need to protect yourself and your home, and you better find a way to do it, because there's, you know, they're not calling out the military, not yet. So there are going to be problems, Jim. I'm just letting people know. The sources I'm getting in.
I'm a conspiracy guy. Last night I had a 2-hour program about the Second Amendment and the politics of gun control. And I explained the necessity for Americans to be able to defend themselves on personal and family ground, on community and social grounds, on national security grounds. And I laid out a decision matrix where you have to decide whether you want to be armed or unarmed, should you be attacked or not be attacked, and why both the maxi-max gain, mini-max loss, and the regret decision principles all dictate you want to arm yourself to deal with problems that you won't, so that you won't regret later having left yourself vulnerable to attacks in your family, to being massacred in their homes.
Exactly. Exactly, Jim. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to begin?
Yes.
Okay, Louisa. Well, we know all about the George Floyd psyop, right? And I've been offering a lot of evidence. There are several important video blogs at jamesfetzer.org. Al Turner asks, how did the Obama Foundation tweet a George Floyd poster on May 17th when he wasn't killed until May 25th? Here you can see the proof for yourself. May 17th, but he didn't die until May 25th. Obviously, therefore, this was pre-planned. The Obama administration was involved. Hillary Clinton, no doubt, many others. Meanwhile, there's a very discerning observation about the event that I believe exposes it massively. I keep telling you we're all being punked. Look at this, Louisa. It just dawned on me the most glaring component of the Floyd psyop. It was filmed before COVID-19. How do I know? Not a single person is wearing a mask. Not one of the cops, not Floyd, not his passenger, not the market people, not the bystanders. don't you think a police department would have masks available? I'm telling you, this is really telling, because by March 25th, the COVID crisis had been around for a couple of months, and everyone, you know, the vast majority in Minneapolis, Minnesota's been very conforming. We're wearing masks. But get this, Louisa, we have a new video showing when they lifted up George Floyd to put him on the gurney, and it ought to have been done by EMTs, not by cops, but it was done by cops. He didn't have any legs. They were using a dummy. This is what they did at Parkland. We have a 57-second video from inside the Parkland classroom where the camera turns and pans, and you see what's supposed to be a body is actually a training dummy with no head and no arms. Here they have a similar. Look, you can't see his left arm either, though I'm willing to surmise it might be blocked by the sheet. I'll tell you, Louisa, when I first saw the video, I was struck, but I couldn't quite put two and two together that something was odd about it. And it said he was missing his arm. All of this nonsense, all this propaganda was validated, made possible by Barack Obama, who made legal the use of the same techniques of disinformation and propaganda within the United States that heretofore had only been used without, by his nullification of the Smith-Munn Act of 1948, which precluded precisely that, and he opened a floodgate. This was done by the Smith-Munn Nullification Act of 2012 in time for Sandy Hook, and then the Boston bombing, and then Orlando and Dallas, and then Charlottesville and Parkland and Las Vegas. They're all fraudulent. I brought together groups of experts to dissect them and publish books about them, Louisa. We have Barack Obama to thank. And of course, as you know, I have the video. I sent you the video, which for reasons I don't quite understand, I wasn't able to upload onto my PowerPoint so everyone could look at it. And yeah, go ahead, Louisa. There.
Right,
No,
you can see his hand. There you go.
No legs.
You can see right through the street here. You can see right through the street. It looks like this is just the torso. And notice how his neck is in a position that is consistent with, well, let's keep playing this because you show something else.
What am I going to do about my legs,
Something's not right there, but
I mean, we have been played. We have been played.
Jim,
we have no idea what that is. Just
that mannequin looks exactly like what you saw laying.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right.
Look at the chest, look at the position of the neck, look at the throat, look at the position of the shoulders and the arms. It looks exactly. It's just.
Excellent. You're right, Louisa. That's the mannequin they use. That's the dummy they use. I mean, talk about the American people being played. We have been snookered. All this race riot looting based on a totally fabricated case, just as have all the responses to Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, Charlottesville, Parkland, and the rest. It is outrageous.
Well, I also have, in support of what you're saying, the website of the company that actually makes those mannequins. So I'm going to share it with you all, which I shared last week, but I'll share it again this week. These are the airway mannequin instruction manuals, and you can see the same exact position of the neck. It never really moved. You know, it might have turned, the head might have turned, but amazing how he's laying there with his head back rather than his chin down, because you'd think if he's being thrown onto hoisted onto a stretcher that, you know, maybe his head would fall in or over or whatever, but it stayed in this exact position. I just think it's interesting. There's I think there's definitely some video fakery going on here. I did see another video, just for the sake of the argument, that shows another scene, another image, but I think that there has definitely been some editing. There's also someone else on YouTube, on BitChute. I should send it to you.
What you're saying is highly ambiguous, Louisa. You say there's definitely been some editing, but of which video?
Well,
Look, let me finish. There would not exist video that shows no legs unless there had been no legs. Yeah. This idea that once they were trapped, once they realized they made the mistake, they might create a video that showed legs from another perspective is child's play. Of course, that's what they do. Yeah. It's like trying to excuse every explanation, explain away all the evidence of the sign, everyone must check in at Sandy Hook, of the fact they have porta potties and pizza and bottled water at the firehouse. They try to explain it away. People with name tags on lanyards, all consistent with a FEMA drill. Right. It says right in the manual, everyone must check in with a controller so they can be paid. Yeah. And of course, for FEMA exercises, they provide refreshments and restrooms. So yes, that there should be some. This is like how many questioning whether or not all pennies are made of copper. You can produce billions of confirming instances, but it turns out that in 1943 pennies were made out of steel because copper was in short supply for the war. So, you know, they're trying to produce a mass of confirming evidence, but what we have found are falsifications that show the whole thing was a scam.
Right. Well, let me just show, you know, why we're talking about this. Let me just show this video of some guy who did a brilliant job of pointing out that several different kinds of videos were used to share with the public. And he does a brilliant job of showing what a fraud this is.
Now, we already know the establishment don't want this bit of truth out. You understand? That's what you need to know. And I'm just thinking about it real hard because this is only what I do. I can't do nothing else as far as videos. You understand? I only can speak what I believe in. And the damn discernment tell me that these shit that they're giving the masses on the news, you're telling me that it's all hoaxes. You understand? For number one, they don't publicize nothing like this big unless it's made up by the government. But that's also one of the things that a lot of people won't understand. They think they care about this guy right here on the ground with the policeman so-called knee in the neck, hold him there for 9 minutes until he die. He shouting, "I can't breathe," for 15 times. First they say it was 12, now it's 15 for your number 6. But I already told you, somebody can't breathe, there's no way they're gonna shout that 15 times. They can't. And this guy right here is an actor, just like you see him staring dead on at the camera. And the people just dumb. And I'm going to put the video back, the one that strike down the ugly truth. If you know by now, they take down the ugly truth. And that's the reason why I didn't really want to post the first video that I made about this right here on that channel. And as soon as it come back on, you know, I do a few more videos and then I say, you know, let me just give these people on this channel the video. So I make another one and put
let me move ahead for just a second.
It's by design, 100%. Something wrong like this right here. You ever see it? Doing something wrong like this, kneeling on somebody with no regards for their life, and somebody there recording it with a camera, and the police looking at the camera and smiling. I just never see it, people. It's not real. No way it's real. This guy right here is an actor. As you could see him post up with the corona behind him. It's by design, 100%. He's just a hoaxer. Bam! This is the one that was kneeling on him, so-called, right there. They tell you they indict him, they pull him in, but I already tell the masses, and if I go back and I said, let me see what police killing start the last riot. Let me see, Ferguson, with your so-called Freddy.
Let me just show also that he shows another, he's pointing out here that the person in that mugshot is not this police officer. That's what he's pointing out.
The same person, right. I agree. Now notice how his badge is at an angle. Yeah. Notice too that the license plate says police. That's because we're supposed to be so simple-minded.
Right.
You don't know that these are supposed to be police. That's not a standard license plate for the police. They don't use a license plate that says police. And Louisa, I think I know now why his hand was in his pocket. Given this is a mannequin, they had to have a recording that says, "Oh, I can't breathe." He's got his hand in his pocket to activate the recording. "I can't breathe." And you notice the vicinity, the proximity to the mannequin makes it look as though the mannequin is actually uttering those expressions, but you never see the mannequin's mouth or lips move.
Right. Well, what the gentleman's going to show you in a minute is he's showing you that somebody on the curb is taking this video, that there's a group of people standing there taking this video, but he's going to show you the video that's actually being, there's other video that they've taken down already to show that there was nobody standing there. So just take a look at this.
No. This is a hoax. Right here they put together to divide and conquer the masses in the pandemic. Let's run it.
There are new developments in the death of George Floyd, the unarmed black man in Minneapolis who died in...
What you have to understand in these fake case, always new development, always new video surface. It's nothing but crap. They're putting it together while they go along.
Okay.
To that in a minute. The first video that they show, when I tell you it's lights, camera, action, and then you see the movements. It was only one police over this door taking out the so-called flight out the car. One police. Why the hell this new tape, this new video show up and it's two of them angling right there? It's bullshit, 100%, and I'm gonna prove it.
What he's trying to say is they will come out with new video evidence, which is obviously not going to, it's going to show something different. But he's going to make the comparison that that they are not, none of them are consistent with each other.
As you can see, your 26 right there coding on the license plate. But pay attention, people. It was only one policeman, the bald police, was taking him out the car, was taking him out the car before. Now it's two of them. Pay attention.
The initial arrest. Officers are seen taking George Floyd out of his vehicle. In surveillance video.
Why are you taking him out of his vehicle like this right here? What happened? You say he resisted. Let's see, because I told you it's a hoax. They can never put it together to fool me if it's fake. Bam.
Video shows the initial arrest. Officers are seen taking George Floyd out of his vehicle.
Okay.
In surveillance video.
They never show you he get cuffed up right there. They never show you. Why? They keep cutting these films. They give you these piece of footage that don't make no damn sense. Why they don't show you him get cuffed up right there? It's bullshit. You see the police take out the cuff, you never see him put it on. It's crap.
By CBS News, a handcuffed Floyd is walked across the street toward a police car.
Wow.
In the distance, you can see Floyd fall.
Okay, there you go, people. This is how they're going to tell you that he get to the ground. Pay attention right here, okay? All right, they take him out the car.
In surveillance video obtained by CBS News, a handcuffed...
This car turning around, there go the light that they put right there. Take a look at this right here and pay attention.
Floyd is walked across the street toward a police car. In the distance, you can see Floyd fall.
Wow.
In this newly circulated street toward a police car.
Nobody
street toward a police car. In the distance, you can see Floyd fall.
Wow, that's just a bad acting job from the flight character. Just pay attention right here. Oh, he gonna throw himself to the ground.
Where's all the people on the street videotaping?
And of course, all you're gonna get is fog in this fucking fake shit. Watch this right here.
Street toward a police car. In the distance, you can see Floyd fall. In this...
Wow. And there you go, people. All four of them right here. So-called 4 police officers. Look how foggy the video is. They can never show you a real video. It's bullshit. 100%.
Newly circulated video. 3 officers at Floyd pinned...
Where's all the people on the street here?
Right.
There's no people videotaping this.
All right, there go the circulated video. Where's the people that was on this side taking the video that's showing everybody now? That only can show his head and his shoulder and the police kneel on him. Where is the people? I already told you it's a hoax. You think they can put it together to fool people with brain? Come on. Come on, people. Remember what shot you get from the so-called camera where they show you.
So I don't want to go into this. I mean, I'll send you this link, Jim, but anymore. But that was a smoking gun. I mean, there's different videos being circulated. It's a production, you know that, and this guy did a good job also picking apart some other aspects of this.
Yep, I agree. And it's all thanks to Obama. Meanwhile, Antifa seek to arm volunteers to hold seized ground in Seattle. The media reports a seizure of 6 city blocks followed by a list of 30 demands, including the Seattle Police Department and attached court system are beyond reform. We do not request reform. We demand abolition of the police department and the judicial system. A second demand, no guns, no batons, no riot shields, no chemical weapons to be used against protesters during the transition period when police department is being dismantled. It's followed by the statement, although we've liberated free Capitol Hill in the name of the people of Seattle, we must not forget we stand on land already once stolen from Indians who resided in that area. Meanwhile, the New York Times has been very kind and gentle, free food, free speech, and free of police inside Seattle's autonomous zone. The growing backlash over its dispersal tactics in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, the Seattle Police Department this week offered a concession. Officers would abandon their precinct, board up windows, and let the protesters have free reign outside in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, which is the heart of the city's art and culture. Threatened these days as rising tech wealth brings in gentrification. Protesters seized the moment. One block had a designated smoking area, another had a medic station at the no-cop co-op. People could pick up a free LaCroix, sprinkling water, or a snack, no currency accepted. So here they have defunding the Seattle Police Department. This is now a community center. If you've been getting your news from right-wing media, you probably think armed militant Antifa activists have seized a section of Seattle. But the mayor, when he was asked, said he didn't know anything about it. City officials haven't interacted with armed Antifa militants at this site. Louisa, more. Unconstitutional and illegal. Seattle mayor shocked by Trump's threat to invade and clear out the anarchist zone, saying the threat to invade Seattle is not only unwelcome, it's illegal. But it's not. It has a constitutional precedent. Even George Washington himself led militias from Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania during the Whiskey Rebellion, which was an effort in the Western Pennsylvania to resist paying tax on whiskey. He was putting down an insurrection. It's perfectly legal, but I'm glad he's not doing it. There was a dumpster fire in the autonomous zone. So what did they do? They called the Seattle Fire Department. The leader of Seattle's Chaz has demanded white occupiers fork over money to their black counterparts. White people are being required to give $10 to a black person in the Chaz autonomous zone. How absurd is that? A street preacher was there complaining about it. He was attacked in Seattle's autonomous zone. Stop choking me. Reminiscent of any event recently in Minneapolis? Meanwhile, oh dear, Seattle officials plan to take back Chaz occupied zone. The mayor is now worried about safety, where the chief of police has been very, very concerned because they've been unable to respond to 911 calls for both rape and robbery, Louisa. This is a clown show.
It certainly is. Well, what are they expecting? Oh, they're what they're doing is they're forcing local communities to pay over, I guess, a hustle fee, I suppose, right? It's just,
how long are you going to let this absurdity play out? As I say, this is an act of self-immolation by Antifa, which is a political tip of the spear for the Democratic Party. I mean, it's just outrageous. And Trump is doing the right thing. Just let it play out. Everyone thinks this is ridiculous beyond words. I shall continue. Meanwhile, with nearly 1 million Americans signed up for President Trump's rally next Saturday, the Tulsa health director sounds the alarm. This is very consistent thematic with your opening presentation, Louisa. They're going to try to use health concerns to constrain any political event. Meanwhile, just past 800,000 tickets, biggest data haul and rally sign-up of all time by 10. Brad said they're looking at a second event to get more people to be with Trump. Mega rallies are also being planned for Florida, Arizona, North Carolina. The Democrat media complex is going crazy attacking Trump for holding rallies during a pandemic. That's because Democratic frontrunner senile Joe Biden is still hiding in the basement. Couldn't fill a high school gym with supporters if he paid them. So today the Tulsa Health Department expressed concerns. That's how they're going to try to manipulate. Meanwhile, Trump takes aim at Chaz again. The do-nothing Democratic leadership and the fake news media purposely ignoring the radical left takeover. Louisa, the Wisconsin State Journal, the largest newspaper in Madison, in Wisconsin, has not published a word about this takeover, not a word. I mean, it's just stunning. Notice how little the radical left takeover in Seattle is being discussed in the fake news media. Very much on purpose, because they know it's grossly embarrassing. And remember, Louisa, we've already reported, and notice this is from 5 June. Black approval for Trump surges to over 40% in Louisa. That's from black likely voters because of all the benefits he's brought to them economically, where the lowest level wage jobs have been rising at the highest rate. And by cutting off the influx of illegal immigrants, he's made it possible for them to keep the jobs rather than crass employers selling them out for cheaper labor. Trump is doing everything right, Louisa, set up for what I believe will be a massive landslide in 2020.
I agree. I completely agree. And you know what? I decided to go live on Facebook instead of YouTube. So let's see how this goes. Because we've been banned from live streaming on YouTube today. Can you hear me, Jim?
I can hear you, Louisa. I don't see a sign that we're going live, but
I know I have to type in a. This is new for us, so just bear with me. I'm going to do this.
We're so far into the show. You don't think it would be better just to broadcast the whole show as pre-recorded?
We are going to on YouTube, but on Facebook,
There you go.
I'm just testing it, Jim. I'm just testing
it. There you go. It says, you know, live on Facebook.
There we are. So we're broadcasting live on Facebook. So hi, everybody on Facebook. Sorry, we've been banned on YouTube to do live streaming for some reason. I don't have an explanation as to why. So we're testing this today because I don't really suppose this is going to last long either. So we'll just give it a try today. We're in the middle of our political theater report today with Jim Fetzer. So let's continue, Jim.
Okay, Louisa. The viewers are going to want to catch what we've already covered, but where all the signs indicate that Trump is poised for a landslide victory in 2020. Meanwhile, Atlanta, we have an event there. An Atlanta police officer was fired early Sunday following the fatal shooting of a black man, which triggered unrest and a new wave of protests in the city, where Rayshard Brooks, 27, was fatally shot by police at a Wendy's drive-thru. Apparently, he fell asleep in his vehicle. He'd been drinking heavily in the Wendy's, and they didn't know what to do, so they called the police. Here we have a report from a research associate of mine with extensive legal background. He's very reliable. Atlanta police shot a black man who was resisting arrest, fighting with him. He took a taser from the cops and pointed it at an officer who was chasing him. Well, we actually have the video of their scuffle on the street, but apparently later on he turned around and pointed it at the officer, at which point he was shot. Black Lives Matter already gathering to protest, which is, of course, as we have explained, owned and controlled by Democrats, sponsored by George Soros, but where they're using Black Lives Matter to funnel money into the Democratic Party, seeking to set a dangerous tone. It's okay for criminals to resist and fight with the police when they're arrested for any crime. This could be a false flag. Comments by a few of the bystanders seem to be inflammatory and scripted. It's early to tell. Here's a video of part of this. Watch. That's the yellow taser in his hand. The suspect is trying to grab. He's pretty strong. I mean, this is a real tussle.
Damn.
See, he's got it. He's got it in his hand, the yellow taser.
Yeah.
He starts to run away. Mm-hmm. Now, the next thing we're going to see is he's on the ground. And what we don't see, and there's other video that shows it, is he turns and points the taser at the police, at which point he's shot. The family of the felon, he seems to have an extensive criminal record, has a black attorney saying the cop should have allowed the felon to shoot him with a taser. He says police argue in court a taser's not a deadly weapon, which is true, not when used on suspect, but when a suspect tries to use it on one of the police, it becomes deadly, or potentially, because criminals can incapacitate the officer, take his gun and use it on him, which has happened in the past. Courts have ruled on this already many times. The lawyer says the police can't have it both ways. He wants the cop fired. Well, actually, the cop has been at least suspended. Yet, in his opinion, the lawyer is at fault. He knows he's lying about it. Meanwhile, rioting protesters torch Atlanta Wendy's where a black man was shot and killed by police. All this is getting a bit out of hand. Meanwhile, there are a couple of burglars saying, who says there's no good news? Holding up a newspaper, Minneapolis, to dismantle its police department. I think criminals throughout the United States are overjoyed at this movement, Louisa. What is the public supposed to do? Fewer than 20% of the American people support defunding the police department. And in fact, it's a completely absurd idea. Even Antifa in Seattle, Louisa, has discovered it has to police itself. So it's quite ironic. They've had to create their own mini police force at the very time they're arguing for dismantling the Seattle police force.
Yeah, and you know, Governor Huckabee made a very good point about talking about the politicians that are in control of these towns, of these cities, and you know, they have to be voted out, folks. I mean, we can't have them in there. They're destroying the cities, and we have to really do more. As I've been saying in the GoldFish Report for a long time, you need to realize that the war is on our front step now, because they are going to start moving into smaller cities, and their plan is to move into the suburbs. At what point will the military get involved, if at all? I have no idea. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I am not trying to push fear porn here. I don't want it, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. I've been getting from multiple sources that this is going to continue, and people just need to be prepared. So whether patriots are in control, I don't know, but Q has said that this has to play out. People have to see who they really are. What's happening here, folks, is this. They are figuring out, Jim, that people have woken up to such a degree that they see what's going on. See this?
Yep, the man behind the curtain.
We are, Toto, right? We are all pulling back the proverbial curtain, and they are exposed now. They can't hide in the shadows and in the dark anymore. They can't, because there's too many people who are awake. Right now, you have those who lack courage, those who lack heart, those who lack, they're all waking up and they're seeing this, all of them. So you can't hide it anymore. The wizard is being exposed, the grand wizard, right? And so this is what's happening. And they know we know. They know that we're looking right at exposing their corruption. And they will not surrender, Jim. They will not do truth and reconciliation. They will not surrender. They will not go quietly in the night. They will destroy everything they can on their way out. And, you really expect the military to do what they say they're going to do, and that is protect and defend our country from enemies, foreign and domestic. But at what point will they act? And, that's going to be
it's not up to them, Louisa. The military is apolitical. They have to respond to the commander-in-chief, who is the president. So when the time is right, if the circumstances call for it, I have no doubt he will take the appropriate action. Meanwhile, these issues are local and state. We're talking about Seattle, the Seattle Police Department. We're talking about the state of Washington and the state of Washington National Guard. Yes. And the president is wisely standing back and just let it play out to show how these extreme liberal progressive politicians allow absurdities such as this to take place and do nothing about it.
Well, the draconian control is being exposed now on a much more visible stage, because behind the scenes it's easy to not see it, and to it happen to only just a local group or a small community. But now it's happening, it's so widespread. But Q has always said that it has to play out, that you simply can't tell people certain things. They just have to see it for themselves, and that's what's happening.
Yep, you got it. Nice points. I like the image from Wizard of Oz. Meanwhile, when mob violence replaces police as a standard of authority, this is a very nice piece about it. What are we? Humans or animals or savages? The line is from William Golding's classic novel, Lord of the Flies, but it might as well be emblazoned on the forehead of every American after last week. Just as it universally must be asked of every person who's tasked with choosing between order and chaos. The policeman who put his knee on George Floyd's throat failed the test for humanity. His haughty disregard for Floyd's precious life was more akin to the instinctive calm of an apex predator than a civilized human being, though we have exposed, Louisa, in the earlier segments of today's program, that this was completely fraudulent, and that it appears to have been a mannequin. When such wanton destruction is occurring as the riots and looting, normal people have no choice against overwhelming force. There's no army or police force to protect them. They will either die or surrender and hope that obsequious fawning will buy them, or at least their family's safety. Perhaps a survival instinct is what led our governing class to kowtow to the looters. The Democratic Party of Fairfax, Virginia tweeted, "Riots are an integral part of this country's march toward progress." Hillary Clinton's former spokesperson, Brian Fallon, sent a message to defund the police, as if a nation without police could be anything but a barbaric, lawless mess. If you want more dead George Floyds, take away the police and the justice system, and you'll have thousands of them, ultimately millions. The point that the rioters and their enablers miss is that when police become criminals, there is no way to hold them accountable. But when criminals become police, they are a law unto themselves with no court of appeal and no hope for justice. This is such a nice piece. Who knows what will happen to people in American cities going forward if they don't denounce their so-called white privilege and bend a knee to those who have power and are willing to use it. A few boys on the island of Lord of the Flies resisted the tyranny of the mob, sought to maintain order by an appeal to reason. One boy, Ralph, had been elected as the group's leader because he seemed to symbolize decency, kindness, and honor. But slowly he was displaced by boys who valued action over honor, power over principle, as do today's Democrats. "The rule," shouted Ralph. "You're breaking the rules." "Who cares?" came the response from the children. If that is the same response we accept from our mayors, our governors, our generals, and our media elite, then we have not only lost our honor, we have lost our country. Meanwhile, truckers are responding. 77% of truckers have declared they will refuse to deliver to cities that have defunded their police. Why? Because truckers are vulnerable to hijacking and looting. What could be more appropriate? Meanwhile, it may be every man for himself. At Corbo's Italian Bakery in downtown Cleveland, they told rioters to F off, and they did, Louisa, and they did. Just one more reason why the very idea of taking guns away from the American people is a complete absurdity.
Yeah. Can't let them succeed at this, Jim. Not at all. And I wanted to screen share just a picture here that Q had posted. Actually, let's see. It wasn't just the picture. It was I'll just screen share the page, because it says, "Only when evil forced into light can we defeat it. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadows can people see the truth for themselves. Only when people see the truth for themselves will people understand the true nature of their deception. Seeing is believing. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change. It had to be this way. This is not another 4-year election. God wins." Q.
I think that's excellent, Louisa, and I think that's exactly why Trump is right in being hands out regarding Seattle.
Yeah. Well, and also there's a certain amount exactly. Look, Jim, how many years have you been publishing books, right, on false flags? How long has GoldFish Report been trying to do what we could to wake people up? And how many times do we try to have, rational conversations with people who just didn't want to listen to anything that we were telling them? They just believed that we were nuts, tinfoil wearing hat conspiracy nuts, right, Jim? I mean, how many times? And for years and years and years, people just didn't want to get their head out of the sand. I remember being in a school and seeing this tiny little shade about this wide on a window in the copy room of my daughter's school. And I said, well, that's strange having a shade like that, such a tiny little shade. She says, oh, that's in case, of a lockdown of a gunman or something. And I'm looking at her like, nobody died at Sandy Hook. And she says, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, and that's this. And, so have they changed their mind? And, this is what's going to happen. They didn't want to listen to us then. They didn't want to listen to the other people who were trying to tell them that either. And now it's going to be forced at their front door. Jim, I've been saying this for years, that it's going to come to your front door if we don't wake up and all do something collectively. But now the Hells Angels, though, as you have noted, the Hells Angels have driven into Portland saying, oh, we're going to meet you there, Antifa. And let's see how this plays out. So people, the militias are starting to organize, and people are really going to have to organize, and we're going to have to fight for our freedom once again, folks. That's where we're at.
Meanwhile, I had a very nice exchange with Louisa and her colleague about Minds versus Machines. As the founding editor of Minds and Machines, an international journal I sole edited for 10 years, I was explaining why it's proven to be impossible to convert these inanimate machines into thinking things. In other words, they haven't been able to turn machines into minds. Therefore, they have adopted the opposite approach of attempting to turn minds into machines. I believe that the use of these vaccines is to introduce chips that will enable them to not only monitor our functions, affect our mood, but even control our behavior. Very, very serious. And I mentioned that, and lo and behold, here we have an article confirming it. Pre-filled COVID-19 vaccine syringes may have RFID chip. I think that's exactly the plan, and why Bill Gates, among other of these globalist monsters, is so eager to vaccinate everyone. Meanwhile, and this is fairly stunning historically, a Colorado bill requires re-education for parents who refuse the COVID-19 vaccine. Louisa, this is like a Kafka event. The bill passed through the committee to reduce available exemptions to vaccines for school-age children, making vaccines mandatory. It offers online education modules who want a different vaccine schedule than what the state demands. But we know these vaccines are extremely hazardous, Louisa. A Bill Gates vaccine in India paralyzed 500,000 children. Another Gates vaccine for a very exotic sexually transmitted disease killed children in Africa. The H1N1 flu vaccine causes brain damage. The vaccines routinely given to children have mercury or aluminum bases that induce autism. The statistical correlation is absolutely perfect. Where some projections have it, at the rate we're going by 2050, half of our children will be autistic. We have the right to refuse. We cannot be subjected to invasive medical procedures without informed consent. They are not telling us the pros and the cons. They're moving forward as though they have the right to do it, and I have damned him, Alan Dershowitz, for saying the people don't have the right to resist mandatory vaccinations. They do. And I wish Alan Dershowitz should rot in hell for an eternity. Meanwhile, if you consider the shutdown of our economy as needless or fake, then can you possibly consider the virus that causes shutdown to be fake as well? Absolutely spot on, Louisa. We're getting to the heart of the matter. This has been a massive fraud compounded by another massive fraud compounded by yet more.
Jim, I'm going to have to share this with you too, because here someone has noticed something from the video. This is the image of Floyd being arrested, right? This is the image, and he's got, you can see his hairline. You can tell he's got some growth in here, right?
Yes.
He's got some hair. Someone pointed this out. Wendigo bald.
Way to go! Way to
They
go!
shave
Way
him?
to go!
Did they shave him? Did they shave him in the police car?
Good reader. Good reader. Good
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah.
Well done.
And the police badge. Since when do you cover a police badge with paper? Look at that.
Right.
Was that
Right.
a post?
Very good. Very good.
Post
Very
it. Is that from his Jim? He got his authority from the Post-it police
This
precinct.
is all spot on. All spot on, Louisa.
The Post-it precinct.
They're going to love the first part of the show they missed because we hadn't gone live yet. So I highly recommend. This is totally consistent with what we've shown. Namely, they were using a mannequin that has no legs for the filming, and it was a botched effort, but not for lack of trying. It's just these people are not rocket scientists, and they make lots of gaffes.
Yeah, and also there's issue about a tattoo that he had. That he was obviously he had a tattoo on his full chest, and you could see in the video too that they're showing that there's no tattoo on the man. So there's definitely a lot of discrepancies, many worth discussing and worth noting. So I'm going
Great work on the hairline. I love it.
Yeah. And by the way, viewers, you can, for those who are just tuning in, because we are live on Facebook today, you can go to, this will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can go to our YouTube channel and view the entire report. And you can also go to our BitChute channel, and it will be there as well.
Which is a good thing, Louisa, because I surmise your YouTube channel is not going to last long.
Something's happening.
Democrats feed racism to control our black community. This was authored by a black author outside the Iron Triangle. What is he's talking about? The areas in which the government, in the past few months, we've witnessed the raw and unmasked Democratic Party live and in living color. Their constituents are rioting, looting, and murdering because they finally realize those are the only three areas where the government is supremely prolific and highly efficient: theft, incarceration, and killing. Outside this Iron Triangle, governments fail horribly at education, protection, healthcare, economic development, border security, drug enforcement, and infrastructure. After years of economic collapse, pandemic hysteria, and racial anarchy, where 60 years of Democratic Party abuse of black America was revealed, black leadership still chooses the government as its vehicle to solve these indignities. Why? Because this is what the Democrats desire. Apart from a brief period of Reconstruction, there's never been a time since its inception in 1800 the Democrats have not had absolute control over most of the black population in America. They have used race in one way or another to maintain power ever since. It goes on in an excellent critique here that is exposing. In his book, The Prince, of course, a classic, political philosopher Machiavelli stated, for among other ills which ensue from being disarmed is contempt, a disgrace a prince must guard against. There can be no proper relation between one who is armed and one who is not. The evidence supports the fact that black Democrats hold black people down and in utter contempt. For free people to voluntarily disarm themselves is the height of insanity. To secure 90% of the black vote for the Democratic Party, the black community is not being served, it is being occupied. This occupation is necessary for the cultural genocide that's taking place there. And like a patient, after spending all their money discovering their physician's a quack and a con man, blacks are asking hard questions. Some are rioting. The Democrats, if you give us your children, we will educate them. They lied. They said, if you get rid of your men, we will provide for you. They lied. They said, if you give us your guns, we will protect you. They lied. Louisa, this is absolutely stunning. Regarding the Democratic Party true intentions, I hope the death of George Floyd, which we know now was manufactured, a fake event, will provide a precipitating moment just for black America, but for all of America. The party has reserved for itself and its constituents who have erroneously granted it powers reserved only for God. The condition of Black America provides irrefutable evidence the Democratic Party cannot provide freedom, dignity, provision, or protection for its constituents. It chooses not to. Our Declaration of Independence and philosopher John Locke correctly say these will either come from God, yourself, or not at all. Meanwhile, Reince Priebus, former chair of the Republican Party, has suggested that Biden is so incompetent, he's actually brain damaged, hiding in his basement, that Trump should double the number of debates and ask for 6, not merely 3, but where Biden can't even make a 5-minute presentation without committing massive gaffes. They'll have an earpiece. I'll be telling him what to say, but he is so incompetent he won't be able to do it, Louise. It will be an embarrassment.
Yeah, no, it won't work. And some people are saying Kamala Harris will be as VP, or Condoleezza Rice, or somebody. I mean, you know, it's kind of pointless. It's just a show. I just wanted to screen share a quick little clip from Hannity regarding the liberal hypocrisy. Not like we don't know it already, but just hearing it from their perspective.
Sean, are you voting for Donald Trump? Sean, whoa, Larry, this is a very important question. That's for Leo.
I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I am not voting for Joe Biden. And if he puts Kamala Harris on, I will vote for Donald Trump.
Larry.
Sean, the reason I've done this documentary called Uncle Tom, which comes out on June 19th, you can go to uncletom.com and check out the trailers. The reason I've done this is because there's such ignorance about the history of the Democratic Party. It's not just right now. They oppose the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. Democrats founded the KKK. I didn't say Democrat Party. Democrats founded the KKK. And as a percentage of the party, more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act of 64 than did Democrats. And this business about they switched BS. Of all the Democrats who voted against the Civil Rights Act, how many switched to the Republican Party in the Senate? 1, Strom Thurmond. That's it. The South remained Republican, didn't become Republican until almost the 90s. It is not true that all of a sudden the racists en masse left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party. That's a line that you often hear, Sean, and we address that in my documentary, UncleTom.com.
Let me point out one thing. I'm asking every Democrat to do your research on Richard Russell and Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd, who Clinton and Biden eulogized, was a Klan member. That means he was anti-Catholic, anti-Jew, and anti-black. You have to leave the Democratic Party. Leo, get out of there.
All right. Powerful.
And Leo, not just a Klan member, Leo. He was a recruiter. He was a Kliegel. He recruited others. He wasn't just your regular run-of-the-mill Klan guy. He was an executive. Yeah.
Don't let the Democratic Party trick you, please.
There you have it.
All right, Leo, Larry, thank you both.
That's pretty compelling. That's compelling, Jim, and it's right there. I mean, what they have to do is, you know, the America has to wake up to the truth of our history, and really what how these gentlemen articulated this is you know, very eye-opening, I have to say.
Absolutely. There you see authentic voices of the Black community.
Exactly.
Well, a Washington State police chief was ousted after praising armed citizens who gathered to block rioters. In other words, he's doing his job, so he's being sacked. Washington State Suquamish city leaders demoted Suquamish Police Chief Keith Rogers because of his praise for several hundred armed citizens who gathered to protect the town from rioters and looters. When Rogers said it was a festive night of tailgating and celebratory pleasantries, there was an outcry on the internet from those who support the revolutionaries posing as demonstrators. It's no surprise the rioters never showed up. Rogers will stay on as a lieutenant and will be reassigned. This is embarrassingly bad. He prepared the city to confront what he believed was going to be an invasion by Antifa. Here's more evidence of the Democrats using Black Lives Matter to funnel cash into their campaign, to act blue. It's embarrassingly bad. When you click on the Democrats' campaign funding site, and click the link for Black Lives Matter, that's what you get, all those sources. Look at the goal: liberate Black people and end white supremacy forever. Question: how do you liberate that which is not enslaved and end white supremacy forever? Answer: South Africa 2.0, compliments of the Democrats' financing website. And Louisa, what he means by that is, in South Africa, the whites who had control of the economy and made South Africa one of the wealthiest nations in the world per capita surrendered their power and their guns, and the blacks took power and slaughtered them. That's what he's talking about. South Africa 2.0. This idea of ending white supremacy forever means wiping out all the whites. Meanwhile, Amazon CEO Bezos attacks a customer for saying all lives matter. How absurd is that? Bezos, who at least blurred out the surname of the customer, scolded her. No, Macy, I disagree with you. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean other lives don't matter. Black Lives Matter speaks of racism that black people face in our law enforcement and judicial system. I have a 20-year-old son. I simply don't worry. He might be choked to death while being detained one day. It's something I don't worry about. Black parents can't say the same. But Bezos is wrong. While some parents may worry about their child being killed by the police, statistics show they're more likely to be killed by members of their own community or in a random attack or a mugging. Last year, police officers killed 9 unarmed black men, and in almost other instances, there were aggravating factors that made the deaths almost unavoidable. In a handful of cases where the cop was wrong, they were prosecuted. I mean, Tucker pointed out, Louisa, that all of last year, there were only 10 black men who were killed by police officers, and yet in Chicago in one day 18 died, 18 blacks who were killed by other blacks, 18 in a single day versus 10 in a year. What ought we to be concerned about more?
Well, Jim, how many were killed during these riots? It's not all Black Lives Matters to them. It's only the ones that can be used as political Trojan horses, or as we say, milking the Trojan crisis cow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Louisa. You're absolutely right.
To push their agenda, to push their draconian agenda on us, more people have to wake up. Sadly, there's going to be a lot more of this until that happens, until people push back. You know, and I don't mean, when I say push back, I certainly don't mean, you know, firing all the police and taking over a city and calling it Chaz. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is ridiculous what's happening there.
Look
we'll
at
see
this,
what happens.
Louisa, in the UK, they have mobile vaccination centers and shipping containers that could immunize 60 million people in 4 months. I mean, this is just stunning. You got to think about how long in advance this had to be prepared to come up with this idea. This shows further proof that this whole COVID pandemic was a plandemic, as many of us have observed, and indeed the model that justified the lockdown was from Imperial College in the UK, projecting 2.2 million Americans would die, 500,000 Brits if the economies weren't shut down. It's all been completely absurd, shown to be ridiculous, a flawed model. When you look at the real data, the number of deaths is minuscule, not more severe, as even the CDC has conceded, than annual seasonal flu, and for children even less so, 0 to 17. Your chance of dying from the COVID virus are about equal to being struck by lightning. Meanwhile, an Arizona hospital is told to activate emergency plans because they're supposed to have had a spike. I am concerned that they can generate outbreaks at will. This is a form of biological warfare, something the American people have been unacquainted with. The number of COVID-19 cases that have been fatal in Arizona is 1,074 out of 28,396 that have been identified. But, you know, the testing is so flawed, Louisa. Virtually everyone has a COVID virus. And that has shown, in fact, that the actual death rate is extremely low. In California, it was 0.03%, as 2 doctors from Bakersfield established. So we're getting a lot of nonsense. Here, the masks speak. Louisa, I live in fear. I believe CNN. I will snitch on you. I believe in Agenda 21. I want safety, not freedom. I want medical tyranny. My parents are hurting my immune system. I love Bill Gates. I do what I'm told. I want mandatory vaccinations. I enjoy virtue signaling. It's all Trump's fault. The new normal.
Right.
I think that captures what's going on here politically extremely well.
Yeah, and just expect this to escalate until after the election, and maybe even after the election as well, because they definitely don't want Trump to win, and they're going to create as much confusion and destruction as they possibly can, because this is really what this is the reality of what we're dealing with here. Hold on, let me just screen share this video here. This is almost 1 million people have signed up to see the Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is their reaction to it.
Trump is now president of the United States. Trump is now president of the United States.
I mean, are these people? Are these MK'd people or what? Are they MK Ultra?
The difference between the parties was that the Democratic Party was the mommy party. It represented the mother's maternal instinct. The Republican Party, the father party, the daddy party, representing discipline and being held to account, responsibility. But I can see today that's all wrong. The Democrats are the party of children. The Republicans are the party of the adults. It's that clear cut. And more we see, the more we understand. That's a basis of American politics today.
Children, I think we could redefine that even a little bit more. I think these are the lost children.
The lost children. Now get this. Who will respond if there's no police force? Blitzer. Will Blitzer ask City Council President, and she could not respond. The Minneapolis City Council President, Lisa Bender, is back on CNN, and sure enough, she's jumbling down, saying disbanding police is a chance to think holistically and make sure every single member of our community is safe. Blitzer, what happens if there's a criminal out there with a gun and starts shooting people? Minneapolis City Council President dismissed those concerns as hypothetical. It's becoming increasingly clear that that model of policing isn't working. Democratic lawmakers, operatives, commentators are calling for the defunding or abolition of America's police departments. But while the proposal is popular among the party's progressive activist wing and on Twitter, it faces a hard wall of resistance among the wider public. A recent YouGov poll showed fewer than 20% of Americans of all parties support any cutting of police funding, a finding consistent with decades of polling. Police abolition's unpopularity is bipartisan. The YouGov poll found just 16% of Americans favor cutting police funds, including 16% of Democrats, 14% of Hillary voters, only 33% of blacks. Data from the General Social Survey stretching back to 1984 find fewer than 20% of white, black, and Hispanic respondents believe police should be given less money, never mind defunded altogether. I mean, this research goes back and back and back. Republicans are eager for Democrats to voice their views on the issue. Every single Democrat in the country must answer to whether he or she agrees with this radical idea of ridding communities of women and men in blue who put their lives on the line to keep America safe. Dave Abrams, Deputy Executive Director for the Republican State Leadership Council, told the Washington Free Beacon, silence is part of the problem, isn't it? Time for Democrats to speak up because it's a political loser. So Kamala Harris is trying to regain some lost ground. Defunding police doesn't mean closing departments. I'm sorry, Kamala, but the horse is already out of the barn. I don't think you can get it back.
This is true. This is true. It's too late.
I think that we have one more set of stories, Louisa.
Okay.
Oh, only that. I have a conference that'll be held on November 7th and 8th in Austin, Texas, the Question Everything Conference. I've brought together 20 experts from around the world on false flags, conspiracies, on targeting individuals with directed energy weapons. A host, some of the highlights include Oli Damagard, who's the world's leading expert on false flags. He's so good he can predict where the next one will occur based on clues left behind at the last. Wolfgang Helbig, who of course celebrated for his bulldog determination to expose what happened at Sandy Hook. Dr. Nicholas Kollerstrom, a historian from UK, who shattered the London 7/7 subway attack by discovering the train from Luton, that the young Muslim lads who'd been lured into participating in a drill would have had to take to be at the tube stops in time for the explosions to occur, will all be among the speakers. Check it out. Go to mixandstream.com and see if this is something for you. There's both a pay-per-view option, 200 seats at the facility at the hotel right there in Austin. It's going to be a sensational event and a rare opportunity to have this constellation of experts together at the same time, Louisa.
Okay, Jim, I also wanted to just give an update on a new ruling that just came out from the Supreme Court while we're wrapping this up today. Supreme Court has said that it upends the Civil Rights Act ruling on sex discrimination. Justice Alito dissented, noting the definition of sex is not one that can be modified through the court's interpretation. So it's going to be an interesting thing to, I mean, of course.
Could you elaborate on what that means, Louisa? I don't
Yeah, let me go into detail. The United States Supreme Court on Monday ruled that the definition of sex in a federal civil rights law expanded to include sexual orientation and gender identity, ensuring the protection of gay, lesbian, and transgender people from being reprimanded or fired at work. This controversial decision comes after multiple failed legislation attempts in Congress over the last 15 years to rewrite the definition of the word sex into law. The ruling was
they rejected the expansion to cover transgenders, gays, lesbians, and so forth. They rejected it.
So this is what it's saying. An employer who fires an individual for being homosexual or transgender fires that person for traits or actions it would not have questioned in members of a different sex. Sex plays a necessary and undistinguishable role in the decision, exactly what Title II forbids, according to Stephen Gorsuch. Wrote Justice Gorsuch. In the dissent, however, Justice Alito pointed out that the definition of sex is not one that can be modified through the court's interpretation and has repeatedly failed to pass through the legislative branch. So this goes into a little bit more because it prohibits employment discrimination on any of the 5 specified grounds: race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Neither sexual orientation nor gender identity appears on that list, Justice Alito wrote. Yeah.
We'll have to figure out what all this means, Louise. I'm fascinated.
Well, let's keep reading. For the past 45 years, bills have been introduced in Congress to add sexual orientation to the list. In recent years, bills have included gender identity as well. But to date, none has passed both houses. So they are not going to They're not going to redefine that. It's not within the purview of the court to redefine that and include how one identifies as a gender, in terms of sex. They're not distinguishing that. That's what it's saying.
Okay.
But we'll follow this. We'll be on this and we'll follow it. So everybody, Jim, thank you very much today, my friend. It's been interesting. Everybody, I think we need to just hunker down and get prepared. But let's think of how we're going to stay safe and protect our families over the next few months leading up to this election, because everything is at stake in this election. Everything.
And everyone who wants to review, I think, my presentation on the Second Amendment and the politics of gun control should be up at jimtheconspiracyguy.com in the next day or two. It's something you may want to review.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to put that in the link there too. So everybody check that out. And because we're due for our next policy analysis report called Bullet Points. It's a series that we do here at the GoldFish Report, where we take a look at at a specific area of policy that usually specifically pertains to the president, but it can be expanded to the Constitution. And we are due for our Second Amendment one. So I'm curious. I'm going to watch that, Jim. Can't wait to see what you've got in there.
Excellent. Thanks,
okay.
Louisa.
Thanks to everybody who is watching live on Facebook, and I'm sorry to our YouTube viewers. We were banned for some reason. I was notified this morning of a video being removed from YouTube, so perhaps there was some sort of penalty by removing my ability to live stream. We'll see what happens.
Today, YouTube punishes anyone who speaks the truth, Louisa.
Exactly. So, get prepared, folks, and just be safe. And definitely get prepared. So, Jim, we'll see you next week. And thanks again for last Friday. That was a wonderful presentation. I think Steve enjoyed it, and I think our viewers enjoyed it well, Jim. And I look forward to doing more with you.
Terrific, Louisa. Me too.
Okay, folks. So thanks for joining us. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.